critical that we keep this in the context of what was going on at the time. And yes, the staff report, which was very, very thorough, talked to a number of different instances wherein the use of an airplane or commandeering an airplane was in fact mentioned. I had an analyst go back to January 1st of '01 and pull up the threats disseminated within the FBI up through September 10th at the secret level. 216 different threats, 6 of which mention airlines. 3% of what came in at the secret level in '01 went to that issue. What my colleague, I think, is saying, I think we all agree with, is that we literally have every possible kind of threat you can imagine coming in and day out. And when the next attack comes, I have no doubt but that we're going to be able to go back into the body of threat information and find indicators that talk to it with some degree of specificity.
My second question is, assuming that this, it may not be commercial airlines, it may be cargo containers on maritime vessels or other forms of threats, but living in the environment of a large volume of information and the necessity to try to glean from that what is most important and relevant. Have there been any changes in the personnel, the technology, the investigative approach, which, in your opinion, would have changed the answer that you just gave if the circumstance were today and not the spring and summer of 2001?
Would you like me, from the headquarters perspective, I think that the director is clearly moving in the right direction on that, and namely that the analysts are coming on board to begin to look at these issues, and I think that strategic analytical group is beginning to get their arms around issues similar to what you're suggesting. And I think that the technology problems, though, quite frank, they're still there. I don't think they're any better. Again, the analytical resources coming together, but the technology being still a major gap.
Any other comments on that question? Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Pelosi.
Mr. Chairman, with your permission, I would like to yield my 5 minutes to the distinguished gentleman from Minnesota at the time he comes up in the questioning process. Being a pilot and, as I say, close to this issue in Minnesota, I want Mr. Peterson to have my 5 minutes at that time.
Thank you, Ms. Pelosi. Senator Shelby.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to direct my questions to the FBI agent at headquarters. When we've gone through this before, but when FBI Minneapolis contacted headquarters on the FISA, for a FISA, what date was that, if you recall?
I think, to the best of my recollection, I think we're looking around August 21.
And what was your concern, again, regarding their request for a FISA at that time?
We didn't have concern that they had a need for a FISA. There was clearly, in our minds, a need to get into that computer and get to his belongings, and his belongings.
But they had to have, didn't they have to have some kind of a search warrant, a FISA or a criminal search warrant to get into it?
They could have. So? The theme that quickly materialized was one of a tactical type decision, whether to go towards a criminal search warrant or whether to go to a FISA search warrant.
Did you advise them what to do?
We put our heads together within the operational unit and came up with what we believe to be the proper way to go after that.
Were you the head of the unit?
Yes, I was.
Okay, go ahead, sir.
Okay. I think it was the collective opinion of myself and the supervisor who was handling that case that we did not see a probable cause for obtaining a criminal warrant. But obviously, we're not attorneys, and I don't believe that the supervisor that was handling this matter in particular was an attorney. So we elevated that up to the National Security Law Unit within headquarters, and we asked that Minneapolis Division bring it back to their own Chief Division Counsel to try to do a collaborative type effort to make the
Excuse
best
me a minute.
decision.
What kind of time frame you're talking about? Is you kicked it upstairs and then kicked it back to the FBI headquarters in Minneapolis?
I think it was a fairly quick movement. I would say within a day, we had pretty much,
A day, you call that a quick movement?
Well,
on something that's of that importance?
in terms of getting the answers and getting the people to put their heads together, I think it moved pretty quickly.
So the answer was no on the FISA, is that correct?
No, that's not
Well,
correct.
correct the
Okay,
record then.
the decision that we came to in the operational unit and within NSLU, if I could speak for them, was that FISA was the way to proceed. And I think that was substantiated by the CDC in Minneapolis also.
Okay, did the FBI Minneapolis then proceed under the FISA and come back to you for clearance or whatever you do, permission under a FISA?
Right, in terms of the strategy that was employed, we moved forward to attempt to acquire a FISA search warrant.
Okay, did you did the Justice Department, on your recommendation, present an application for FISA to the FISA court?
No application was presented to
Why
the
not?
Department of Justice.
Why not?
A decision was made that the probable cause standards of FISA were not met.
And when you say a decision was made and you were in charge, was that ultimately your decision?
It's a collaborative effort with the National Security Law Unit.
Did you notify then Minneapolis of some problems they might have had with the FISA application?
It was voiced in Minneapolis that we were having problems with the foreign power issue of the FISA application. And I think it's important to note that the FISA process never really ends. You know, we were looking at that FISA process continually right up until September 10, but obviously there came a time when we started to move towards a
But the
deportation.
clock was ticking, all this. This started in August, and on September the 10th, you were still fooling around with it, or maybe fooling around is not the proper word. You were still grappling with it. Is that correct, at FBI headquarters?
It's not uncommon to grapple with the
I didn't ask you if it was
FISA.
uncommon.
Yes.
I asked you, were you still grappling with it?
Yes, we were still trying to get to the foreign power issue.
Okay, what happened on the morning of the 11th of September? Did Minneapolis FBI contact you headquarters again for a FISA or a criminal warrant after the trade towers were hit?
I was contacted by an individual in the Minneapolis division who asked that they be allowed to go forward and attempt to acquire a criminal warrant.
A criminal warrant against Moussaoui or a warrant to search the laptop?
To search both the laptop and his other belongings.
Did you turn that down?
No.
Did you approve it?
I told Minneapolis in no uncertain terms they should go forward immediately.
Well, we've been told that, and I don't know if this is correct or not, that FBI headquarters turned it down, turned the application again for a search warrant down on the morning of the 11th after the trade towers were hit, and a federal judge in Minneapolis issued the necessary warrant to search the laptop. Is that right?
That's not accurate.
Well, explain what is accurate.
I will, if I
you
could.
for the record.
Minneapolis, I received a phone call almost immediately, 9:50 in the morning or whatever, from a assistant special agent in charge in Minneapolis who I knew, and he said to me, "We would like to go forward with that." I said, "Absolutely, go forward." At that point, in my mind, you know, all bets were off.
And this is the morning of the 11th you're speaking of.
That's correct. At that point, Minneapolis went forward and approached the U.S. Attorney's Office in Minneapolis and acquired the search warrant. And, you know, obviously, significant probable cause was added to their warrant in the fact that 3 airplanes had smashed into buildings and a 4th airplane that was hijacked had crashed in Pennsylvania.
I know my time's up, but could you just briefly tell us what was found in the laptop? Can you do that?
I think that's,
Is that?
Mr.
just
Nomius,
instant?
you want to give us guidance on that?
I think the concern is since that happened after September 11th or on September 11th and deals with evidence in the criminal case. we would
Okay, we won't.